welcome back to Max Talk. What I'm going to talk about today is derived from a blog post that I wrote called "You Are Not a Light Infantryman," but importantly with a question mark at the end. So you are not a light infantryman, which is a theme that I see throughout there on the blogosphere. And the purpose of that article was to challenge that. I see it everywhere. I see it all the time. So you could say, why would you do that, Max? Because clearly, you teach light infantry tactics, small unit tactics. So if anybody says, that you shouldn't be doing that, then clearly I'm going to react. Well, there's a reason for that. So the whole point is, you are not a light infantryman, question mark. So what I see going on is I see comments and a kind of a theme that you should not need or should not do light infantry tactics. And you shouldn't be training to attack bunkers, and this kind of theme. And there's two reasons why this is a total misunderstanding. The first one is that whoever's making these comments has a particular thought in mind about how or why you might need to sort of take action using some kind of small unit tactics or some kind of tactics or shooting or firearms or whatever. They believe that something's going to happen in the country and it's going to be this, and then you're going to need that, and you're not going to need to attack bunkers, and there's going to be threats to liberty or whatever, and it's going to need this particular response. It's very much similar to the kind of doomsday prepper type person who if you ever watch that show, they weren't preparing to be the whole man, the whole warrior. They were usually preparing for some kook event, which maybe it could happen, but why pick that event? Why pick, we're all going to die by anthrax, rather than the fact that, well, there could be a financial collapse, there could be like this, there could be that. They're always picking one scenario. And people, so they pick one scenario, and then that's their thing, and their whole life is about that one scenario. And it's a little bit similar in a tactical world, where people will think, well, what do I specifically need to be tactically prepared for? And, I'm sure I can deal with that, from my porch, because I'm a porch sniper. So, there's that kind of strand. And the other strand is a total misunderstanding of what small unit tactics training is, what it does, and, what it's for. So let me delve into these things a little bit. So as usual, at MVT we're playing chess, not checkers, and we're dealing with the little sort of comments out there about, guys who are playing checkers. So on the first front, I kind of think that's irrelevant, because it doesn't really matter what down the road you might specifically need your tactical preparedness for. If you're training the whole warrior, then that's training you to be situationally aware, that's training you to be prepared for any situation, from a everyday self-defense situation, avoidance of that situation, trying to deal with and trying to survive such a situation, protecting yourself, protecting your family. The tactical training prepares you, just because you might have been on a training exercise attacking bunkers. That's all that live firing training, which I've explained before. A ranger kind of guy, and they've been trained in attacking bunkers, and they may never have actually attacked a bunker, but they went on deployment, they did combat, they came back, and do you think that guy has a tactical advantage through his training? I think he does. I think he does. Because he's been trained, he's been to combat, and he's been experienced. And what we're trying to do here with our training is we are mimicking that. We can't give you a combat deployment out of it, but we can give you that training. And in many cases, the light infantry type training that we do is actually superior and better to what the military gets. I mean, why do you think that we have Special Operations Forces coming to the Velocity Training Center to train? Because we have an excellent facility, and we are, our thing is small unit tactics. One of the big problems of the GWAT since 9/11, is the type of conflict in many cases that people experienced has not focused on small unit tactics. And so in many areas, it's kind of lost. It's kind of lost out in favor of kind of call for fire, heavy firepower, this kind of thing. Anyway, I digress. So the fundamental misunderstanding is that what tactical training is about. And it's kind of funny because people will put their own, again, they'll put their own prejudices and beliefs on it. They'll say, well, I think if something was going to happen, if I needed to defend myself or defend liberty, it'll be in an urban environment. And what you should really be doing is you should be sort of training clandestine James Bond stuff in an urban environment. I'm like, wow, that's great. Okay, that's great. So one thing is that most training facilities, we're not government facilities. We don't have full mount urban sites. I mean, it's ridiculous if you think about it. Usually when you go on the range, if you go on the flat range, it's a flat range, and you're learning shooting drills on a flat range. When you go tactical training, it's somewhere that tactical training companies can afford to have a facility in the woods. So we train small unit tactics on training facilities, and we'll have things set up. We'll have, we don't actually have any bunkers. We have kind of like, it originally started as a kind of an enemy patrol base. This is for the raid on Heat 2. And obviously the bunkers, they've been there a while and we kind of built them up, and then they got blown away by the wind and we've changed what they look like. And so this enemy patrol base is the closest thing we've got to bunkers. And that's an enemy patrol base specifically for the raid. And then we have buildings, little hut sites where, we can do scenarios on there, we can do UTM training, we can have them as part of a raid objective, we do specific CQB training. And then we have all the stuff out in the woods. So the point is, we have our facilities where we have them, and that's where we do the training. But what people are missing out on is through the full progression of this training, we're taking people through all the skills and learning how to operate as a team, and learning situational awareness, and learning how to conduct small unit tactics. And it doesn't exactly matter the setting that that's in. I mean, for example, I'll do a class every year in February in Texas, and the terrain is slightly different, but it's still the same drills. It might be adapted slightly, but it's the same effective drills that we're doing. In fact, to say it's adapted slightly, it isn't really adapted slightly. We're doing the same things. It just, there might be a little bit more open ground or whatever, and that'll be brought into play. And so therefore, we're just going to adapt. If you were to deploy operationally into a different environment, you just adapt slightly to exactly what you've got. So again, it kind of misses the point. If you're doing CQB training at one of our classes and then you come across some kind of buildings or something, then you obviously would apply that to that environment. So small unit tactics it does not mean you're training to be in the infantry. And I think this is the next thing that's missed. Small unit tactics, the art of, is used by light infantry formations. It's also used by paramilitary formations. It is effectively unconventional warfare, because when you teach people unconventional warfare, you're teaching them small unit tactics. So, if you think about what we do on Heat 2, once we've got the basics out of the way on Heat 1 and we're working as a team, and then we get to Heat 2 where we're working more as a squad, then when you've got close target reconnaissance going on, you've got attack day, which is hasty attack and raid, you've got ambush day, which is ambush. It's all small unit tactics, but it's all unconventional warfare tactics, and it's teaching you how to do it. And so you will come away from that fully, tactically trained. And then you will have it in your brain, and therefore you will be able to have an understanding of how to apply that to situations that you may come across. And again, I've talked about it so many times, is that even if you never had to do small unit tactics in your life, by doing this training, you are building mentally the full, complete warrior, because of the skills and the personal traits and the character development that participating in such training, what it does for you, the benefits to you as an investment in yourself. Leadership, teamwork, decision making, operating under stress, communication, all these things. So it has a benefit all in itself if you're doing proper training. The final thing that people do is that people are weak. And so they don't want to do the heavy lifting of actually turning up for some real small unit tactics training that's generally going to benefit them. And so what they'll do is they'll have a fantasy. Often this fantasy, revolves around their particular fantasy of, what's going to happen down the road. And so they will take comfort in that denial. So the denial is, well, it'll be fine. I'm a porch sniper. I'm great at long range shooting. I'll just take everybody out at 1,000 yards and nobody threatens me. And so it's kind of a fantasy and it's kind of denial. A lot of it comes down to the fact that these guys are fat asses and they will not physically train. They will not build the whole warrior. And so what they're doing in their mewling little weakness is putting stuff out on the internet and attacking people who are actually rolling out the real deal. I mean, that's what we do at Max Velocity Tactical. We take you and we teach you from the individual up to team level small unit tactics with all the attendant benefits that I've described, and you will be building the whole warrior. And we expect you to do your best to work on physical fitness. We expect you to develop the physical side, the skill side, the shooting and the weapon manipulation, the fieldcraft side, and the mental side, decision-making, planning, working under stress, working as a member of a team. All these things, we expect you and we encourage you. That's what we're for. We're there to develop the whole man. If you're denying the utility of any kind of small unit tactics training, then you are living in denial and you're just making excuses. As I said, you don't want to do the heavy lifting. You will say, oh, well, what's the point? I don't want to be in a light heavy infantry mechanized formation. Well, nobody's training you for that. We're training you in the art of small unit tactics, which ultimately is unconventional warfare, which is going to have an application in your day-to-day, everyday carry life, because you're going to be so much better prepared for life in general than you are if you just do your long-range shooting or flat-range pew-pew speed shooting or whatever it is. We haven't even talked about target discrimination, judgment, all those kind of things which you have to apply in small unit tactics. I'll put the link to the blog post I wrote below this video, and I urge you not to be don't be sucked into the weakness. Build the whole warrior. Thanks very much.